For those interested in competitive tournament play, I'm bringing you some more Guzzlord matches today. I played against a lot of the decks you're going to be seeing. I played against Dark Tina. I played against one of the typical grass decks you're going to be seeing, which is a tough matchup for Guzzlord. And I even played against a Rampardos and Silvally deck, which ultimately ended up taking down first place in this 400-person tournament. I've tried to pick out some of the craziest wild matches that I had during this tournament. Let me tell you, I had some absolutely crazy ones, while also trying to give a fair, balanced take on Guzzlord, what I think about this deck. So let's just start with a match that showcases this deck really well. And this time in this video, I'm going to try a new format. I'm just going to start in round one of the tournament, and we're going to keep working our way through the tournament rounds. So yeah, I already made a video about this deck, talking through some strengths and weaknesses, and I mentioned a couple things before, but just as a quick reminder, I really kind of designed this deck just to have something a little bit tried and true for literally the first day of the set, as well as a deck that I felt like I can just lead off with Guzzlord and let's just find out how good this thing is, or I can build it up on the bench, either way. So I'd like to be able to have this ability, for example, to lead off with it and be able to swing really quickly with the grindcore attack. So I put in the Giratina and the Dawn to allow me to do that. All right, so match number one, round one of this tournament, and we are up against the classical Dark Tina deck. They started with a pretty suboptimal opener, 2 Giratina EXs, so we're going to try to take advantage of that. We led off with the Guzzlord, just like I said, that was kind of the point of this deck. Just I want to slam this guy out front and see how good he is. We launch with an immediate grindcore. We had to build it up to 2, but because we're up against just 2 Giratinas, even if this was Giratina Darkrai, no matter what, as long as they're building up that front guy, we get a chance to just totally disrupt them. And look exactly what happened. They had built up 2 turns. This is the only way they can build up their Giratina, is by taking a turn every time. And because they chose to build up that front Giratina, we were able to grindcore, and we hit the 50% chance. So we're going to hit it pretty often. We're going to hit those 50%, you know, every other time. Plus, I've thrown Team Rocket Grunts into this deck, and the Giratina is going to be having some serious problems in this match. We get another chance to do the grindcore. We get the miss on it, but it's not really going to matter so much because it was just really crucial, and I feel like this is what's going to happen all the time. If you want to use these Team Rocket Grunt effects, which I've also messed with in the past, if you want to use these grindcore, you know, attack, a lot of times it basically comes down to like that one crucial turn where you just kind of need to hit that 50-50. And since it's just a 50%, just to get that one energy off, you are going to hit it a decent amount of the time. And since we did manage to hit it in this, it just completely screwed up my opponent's game plan. They did also have a bit of a suboptimal draw, ending up deciding to build up the Komala, which of course I have a Komala in this deck. They had a Komala in their deck. I threw it in. Why everybody throws this random one Komala in there is because if you're playing an all EX deck, of course, like mine or the opponent's Dark Tina list, you always have to be worried that you're going to go up against an Oricorio, because they're going to be out there. Like, you're probably going to hit one sooner or later, and you're going to have pretty much no chance unless you have some way to deal with it. So I also threw one in this deck. So yeah, right out the gates in this tournament, I actually felt like this match did a pretty good job of showing the potential. Now, this is of course going to be extremely meta dependent. How good is Guzzlord EX going to be? Well, if there's Dark Tina decks running around all over the place, if they make a big comeback and or not really comeback, but still all over the place, in a deck like this with Sabrina, you could really do some damage. But what about when you're against decks that use a bunch of low energy costs, you know, 1 energy or 2 energy type attacks, like Silvally, or even like Silvally paired with Rampardos? Well, that's exactly what I went up against in round 2 after I actually got a victory against a standard Dark Tina list in round 1. So we're coming into this match 1-0. Leading off with a Guzzlord. I'm happy to do that. That's kind of what I was thinking with this deck. Some of these matches, like I've got the Komala in hand. If I remember right, in this match, they didn't have any hand disruption. So a lot of my various choices of what I'm leaving in my hand, not leaving in my hand, is basically based on what my opponent's deck list is. In these tournaments, you get to see your opponent's deck list when you start the match. So I always take a look for things like how many Sabrina or do they have hand disruption. So we're coming in here leading off with the Guzzlord, and wow, okay, pretty good start. We're able to grindcore since we had the energy advantage. We got our 2 up pretty quick. We did take 1 hit for 20 damage. We got our grindcore off, and I'm thinking, I don't know, is there like a chance I could win here? I mean, they've already got the 1 Rampardos. Now, Rampardos is probably going to be kind of like Guzzlord's arch nemesis. I kind of have a feeling if you want to lead off with the Guzzlord and you start it up early, which is probably ultimately just not going to be the way to play Guzzlord, I have a feeling. But let's say you did want to lead with Guzzlord up front every once in a while and, you know, see if it's actually any good. Well, when you run into this situation, it's going to be really tough. So we're able to take out the type null after also getting that maybe kind of lucky, depending on how you want to consider it, fact that we stripped off that energy. And well, now our opponent just happens to have double Rampardos hitting us back for 130, and they weren't able to evolve and use that 2 energy attack. So really, my opponent really didn't have a particularly great start, but because they were just able to get the 40 early damage on the Guzzlord, already my Guzzlord's totally dead. Just from a single Rampardo swing, this deck is probably going to start being all over the place because it just won this tournament. And as anybody who's been playing for a little while knows, Rampardos decks are just probably always going to be all over the place because of how solid they're always going to be. And yeah, maybe this Silvally list might be kind of the new main list. I probably should have went ahead and just conceded this match. There was pretty much nothing I could do, but a lot of times I'll just play it out and just keep thinking if I had any possible wins, you know, route or avenue, because you never know, sometimes you might miss something. So a lot of times I'll play it out another turn or two just to try and think of any possible way of winning. But yeah, against decks like this, oh man, Guzzlord leading out of front, I mean, it's just not going to work. You could potentially slow down the Silvally and get the kill on the Silvally, but it's going to hit you for the 20-40 damage anyway. Then the Rampardos is going to come on, finish off your Guzzlord, and then you're totally going to be in trouble. It's pretty hard for me to imagine a situation leading off with the Guzzlord against a deck like this and having a chance. But if you do leave it back on the bench, it could come in after a first Rampardos swing, build up with a Lusamine, and then take out the Rampardos, which was exactly what happened against the same opponent and actually won one of these matches. But because that deck was so hard for this style of Guzzlord deck to compete against, I did lose that round. So we're going in 1-1 into round 3 against a Turtonator and Incineroar list. Now, this is probably not the standard fire list. I think the standard is more Charizard EX and Turtonator, or Charizard EX plus 1 Incineroar. But this deck is similar enough. I mean, it should be, I think, a pretty similar level of power. So we're leading off with the Guzzlord EX. Again, I wanted to test it out as much as I could, especially leading off with it. Lead off with the Guzzlord EX. We've got our other 2 pieces. I basically modified a, you know, just kind of standard Giratina Darkrai list. Well, I just put those in plus the cards I wanted to test. And so we've got all of our pieces together. We started with the Guzzlord up front, and then here we have exactly what I wanted to test. We've got the double setup where we're hitting first with a Team Rocket Grunt, second with the Grindcore, and we really do kind of need to hit here. So here we go. We've completely missed on the first, and then on the second we get the 2 heads, and boom, suddenly the Turtonator is pretty much totally been disabled. They did get the, I don't know if this is lucky, or can you call it lucky when you get the turn 1 Turtonator and the turn 1 Kiawe, and then they get a second one. So I don't know, is that pretty lucky? I feel like it's pretty lucky for my opponent, but hey, we're getting blessed with some luck here too. 2 coin flips. If you use the ability twice, on average, I think you're only going to strip 1 energy off. Now, because with this deck, I wanted to test this out. What about some energy ramp and donning the energy ramp from the bench up to the Guzzlord? Well, this is what happens. Boom, you managed to somehow fight through a Turtonator double Kiawe without taking any damage, completely unharmed. But because Incineroar is so strong, we're still up against a pretty strong Pokemon who's getting the initiative, getting that first attack. Swings in, gets the 30 damage plus the 20 burn. We managed to heal. And now I'm actually in like a pretty bad position. I've only got 120 HP left, and our opponent is already once again set up to go ahead and swing for that 140. I don't really have time to set things up on my bench. But this was actually pretty cool, and I was really happy about this. I actually realized right at this point in the match, I actually have a guaranteed winning line from this point. I looked at my opponent's deck. I saw that they didn't have any bench swap that was going to kill me, so I was going to be able to let the Guzzlord die, hit for the 120. I also saw that my opponent only had 1 Lily in the deck, so that means they only get 1 heal. I get to bring in the Giratina, and I'm going to guaranteed have the time to build up in order to kill the Incineroar because I drew that leaf in my hand. So I know for a fact my opponent cannot kill me. I can shield for 1 turn with the Giratina, continue to build the the Darkrai on the bench, and it should be a guaranteed victory. Now, I actually kind of forgot about the fact that they could just bring some Pokemon in and put them in the bench. I don't know how that didn't get considered in my mind, but because we've already got that one kill, our opponent ends up having to retreat, bring a Litten in. We're able to swap into the Darkrai, get the kill, and because my opponent had to remove 2 energies from the Incineroar EX, then now my opponent, I'm pretty sure at this point, had no possible avenues out of this. They also used the double Kiawe already, and I don't think there was anyway. I was actually pretty happy with myself in this match, and I have to do this. I have to shout out. I want to actually formally apologize to my opponent. You're probably thinking, whoa, what the heck? What's going on here? What's going on here? My opponent actually, when they played that Lily, I was literally staring at their deck list thinking, okay, I have a guaranteed winning line. They played the Immersive Lily, which I didn't see in the list. And y'all, I could have swore, I've played in these tournaments, I could have swore there was a rule, like you have to match the deck list perfectly. I actually called a judge and they said, no, it's not, you don't have to match it. And then I said, okay, well, I'm sorry, then I apologize, I didn't know that. But I actually think my opponent was a little ticked at me at that. It was an honest mistake, I'm sorry, I didn't know. Now I know. Anyway, it won't happen again. I'm sorry. And actually, I'm glad because I thought it was super annoying to have to set up my deck list perfectly. I don't know if it changed or what happened. I'm sure I've read it. Maybe it was a different tournament. I don't know. All right. Anyways, with my formal apology out of the way, in round 4, we're coming in 2-1. Feeling pretty good and feeling like, okay, Guzzlord's got some potential here. Even up front, I'm getting some wins here. And then once again, after the really terrible, what I felt was like almost unwinnable. Is it unwinnable against the Silvally Rampardos if you're playing this style of Guzzlord where you want to get in early with the Guzzlord, which again, probably not going to be the right way to play it. Immediately got faced up against a grass deck. Okay, it's going to happen. So they let off with a Sprigatito. We're leading off with a Guzzlord again. Want to get the full testing in with this card. And well, here we are. We also, are using the Team Rocket grunts in this deck to see, can this effect be any good? Well, we managed to go ahead and strip the 1 energy off of the Sprigatito. If we hadn't done that, our opponent possibly could have got the evolution. And I was pretty worried about that. Now, our opponent didn't evolve, but I don't know at this point in the match if that's because, I had already stripped the energy off, so if they evolve, it's just kind of a waste. Whereas if they put the next 1 energy, cry for help, then they're able to actually get the attack in as well. It looks like they did potentially end up stumbling a little bit, or maybe they had the Floragato, we don't know. Anyways, we're just carrying out our game plan. We strip the energy, it causes them to fumble a little bit, then they end up having to do a retreat, forcing another problem for them. So I used the Sabrina there because I was worried they were going to get the Rare Candy evolution, go up to the 2 energy. So we Sabrina'd them. And then here we have the Grindcore power coming in clutch. Once again, we get a 3-coin Grindcore. Not that it mattered because the opponent's Pokemon only had 1 energy. They end up getting a Rare Candy into a benched Decidueye. And now I'm kind of wondering what they're going to end up doing. They do also end up having the Meowscarada. So I don't know what if my opponent chose a weird line with the Meowscarada or if they just drew it. I don't know what happened. But now, okay, we are suddenly facing down a Meowscarada. This is problematic because that's a potential kill next turn against our Guzzlord. Guzzlord does not like Meowscarada. We end up throwing out this effect. Once again, we're getting some nice heads here on our Team Rocket grunt. Go up to 3 energy. I could have just, relied on my Grindcore attack that I knew I was already going to be using to strip the energy off, but I knew, okay, if it doesn't work, then I'm really, really in trouble because I put all of my eggs into one basket with the Guzzlord this round. The opponent ends up healing up, which at first seems like an amazing move. Well, I mean, it is if you don't know what's coming, but we've got the Dawn. Look at this. We're able to just destroy the Meowscarada, which they wasted another energy. So against this grass deck, I'm not going to say this deck is good against the grass deck, but it definitely was fun managing to actually get a win like this one off. Using all of our tools, we've stripped energy strip, every turn hitting with double energy strip potential, which is, pretty good odds that you're going to get 1 energy stripped off if you're Team Rocket Grunt and using Grindcore. You got pretty good odds of hitting at least 1 energy off. And then the crazy play of being able to put the 1 energy on the Darkrai, moving it up with the Dawn to get the perfect 4 energy, leading to a 140 damage attack, killing off the Meowscarada. They bring in the Decidueye, but instead of putting the energy on the Decidueye, they're actually putting it on the Sprigatito on the bench. My assumption here being that they basically knew, well, if I power up the Decidueye, he's going to be able to get the 120 strike. I have no hope with the Decidueye. And you know, maybe they had some out here. They were probably like me trying to find some out, but ultimately there was no way out of that situation. So we actually got that win there. And not only did I manage to win that game, I actually managed to win that round, if you can believe it, playing this kind of Guzzlord focused, Guzzlord up front style deck. So that brings us to a very solid 3 wins and 1 loss at the start of this tournament. I'm going to cut this video here, but let me know what y'all think. I'm kind of curious about this style of format, a video of basically playing these tournaments, because I really like tournaments. I feel like it's where kind of the hardcore, deep, competitive aspects of the game come out. In ranked, yeah, you can get in ranked, but ranked also has a little bit more of a grind element, you know, like if you want to go to the top rank, you really do have to grind a lot, whereas tournaments, you can just jump in and get like high-level competitive matches anytime. So everybody, let me know what you think of this style of format. Do you want to see some more of these where I kind of walk through a full tournament, maybe do like 1 match from each round? And I'm probably going to come back and show like one final video just showing a couple of the final more end rounds of this tournament. Did I like go forward to win the tournament? Well, I guess you're just going to have to tune into the next episode to find out, or just go look up the results, which I also plan to talk about later. So if you like high-level ranked matches, if you like competitive tournament matches, do please consider subscribing. Let me know what you think about the formats of the videos, ways I can improve the videos. Comment, like, subscribe, you know the drill, and I'll see you next time.